Hello and welcome to another motorcycling video. This is my actual voice and this is me speaking, uh, using my own words rather than Clipchamp computer generated voices and text to speech feature. So I hope it's a little bit more authentic. I've tried those voices and I found them a bit uh, off-putting. And listening to them and also listening to other people who use them, I've found them a bit off-putting, so I've decided to revert to just using my own voice and no script. Now I'm going to talk about Chinese vehicles, that is, cars made by Chinese companies, as opposed to cars made in China by other companies like Kia or Tesla or whatever. I should say that any of the things that I say here are not an endorsement or a criticism of any brand, make, or model. I have no connection to any company that makes, imports, or sells any vehicles. This is just my thinking out loud while I'm riding around and having some thoughts about Chinese vehicles. So I'm wondering to start off with, if you are in the market for a new car, and if you are in the market for a new car, are you considering a Chinese brand? There seem to be, I think, four major manufacturing groups in China. That is SAIC, which I think owns GWM, LDV, and Aura, and I think also MG. There is BYD, and then there is Geely, which owns Chery, which owns Geely and Polestar and Volvo. And then there is now a new player in the market. I think the correct pronunciation is Xiaomi. Now, the interesting thing about Xiaomi is up until quite recently, about 18 months ago, they were a mobile phone maker. And they decided they were going to make electric cars, and apparently they are making them, and they're thinking of bringing models to Australia. Now, the point I'm going to make here, or the thing I'm going to talk about particularly, is the influx, I think that's the right word, of the number of brands and models of Chinese vehicles that are being promised or being talked about as possibly coming to Australia. So before I get too deeply into that, let me go back a step or two. We have had in Australia a history of car manufacture. Over my lifetime, we've had Holden, Ford, Toyota, Chrysler, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Datsun, as it was called then, British Leyland, or British Motor Corporation, as they were also called. And they've all made cars in Australia at one stage or another. One by one, their factories have closed and they've shut up shop, and we no longer have a car manufacturing business industry of any sort. But we've also had brands that have been sold in Australia and then disappeared. Some examples of that would be, for example, Daewoo, which were here for a while, the third of the Korean manufacturers, and the last Daewoo's, I think, was sold in about 2003. Daihatsu, which was a standalone brand and then a sub-brand of Toyota until Toyota shut it down completely. But they sold a number of vehicles here. I think there was one called the YRV, which stood for Youth Recreational Vehicle. There was the Charade. There was the Cure, and also the Copen. We had Opel, who came to the market and left, and then came back to the market and left. Have Infinity, which I think, if I'm correct, was the luxury brand for Nissan. They sold here for a while and then they left. Now, when a motor vehicle manufacturer leaves the Australian market, that has an impact on a number of things. If it's a manufacturer that had a factory here, of course, lots of jobs are lost. If it's a manufacturer that only had dealerships here, then the dealerships lose some jobs, I guess. First thing that happens is that people who bought those cars are now left with cars that are worthless. They're lemons. Nobody wants them. The dealers want to get that brand off their lot because they know and they know the public knows that brand and that maker has left the Australian market and no one wants to buy those cars. So they've got to discount them and get them off the lot. The dealer also has no incentive to keep spare parts for that vehicle because they say, well, we don't sell that vehicle anymore, so what's the point in keeping spare parts for it? We're taking up space with a vehicle we don't sell. They also have no incentive to make sure that their staff in the service department are up to date and well trained in the service of that vehicle, again with the argument that we don't sell that vehicle anymore, so why do we care about maintaining our staff skills for repairing it? There is a requirement under Australian consumer law, as I understand it, that a manufacturer is required to provide parts and service for vehicles for 10 years after the last model is sold. The problem with that is, of course, that if the manufacturer has left the Australian market, then Australian law has no jurisdiction. If you're a manufacturer that's based in Japan or Korea or Europe somewhere, Australian courts and Australian law have no jurisdiction. So people who've got those cars, they are stuck with something that they don't really want anymore because they know it's not worth anything on trade-in. The dealers who might buy it from them as a trade-in want to just give them enough money to get the new deal over the line and get rid of that model. And they're left with a vehicle that basically nobody wants. Now, we're being told that all sorts of Chinese-made models are going to be coming in the near future. I'm flat out keeping up with them, but it seems that among the number of people whose reviews of cars I watch on a regular basis, and I mentioned them in the last video, so I won't mention them again, it seems to be almost every week there is a new model from somebody. The Chinese manufacturers offer you traditional combustion engine vehicles. They offer you the traditional hybrids, that is the system that's similar to the one that the Toyota developed many years ago. They offer you plug-in hybrids and they offer you full electric vehicles. So they have the full range of vehicles, and a number of them, including BYD and I see now MG and GWM, all offer utes. MG are now offering a 7-seater SUV, and almost every one of the manufacturers offers a range of SUVs from small to medium sized to large, and there are sedans and other things like the Cyberster, I think it's called, the MG sports car. So there's a full range of models and cater for just about every taste and every motoring need in the market or in the models that are available from China. This is my concern now. This is the question that I am asking myself. If I'm in the market to buy a new car, and I'm not, to be honest, at the moment I'm not, but it doesn't stop me doing the research and thinking at some stage in the future that I might be. If I'm in the market to buy a new car, or if you're a consumer and you're thinking, I'm going to buy a new car now, the one I've got's on its last legs or I'm tired of it or whatever, and you decide you're going to buy a new car and you're thinking about a Chinese car, that is a car made by a Chinese manufacturer rather than a car made in China from someone else, a question you need to be asking yourself is, will the car that I buy and the company that makes it still be around in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? Now, I gave you an example earlier. I think I said Chery, that were here in the Australian market at one stage and then left. They've come back now, and they've come back with a full range of vehicles, including brands that they didn't previously market here, but they were here and they left. And as I said, when they leave, when any manufacturer leaves, they leave behind cars that nobody wants, parts that can't be got, service that can't be done. So is the manufacturer that you're going to buy that vehicle from going to be around in 5 or 10 years' time? Now, in my case, if I were to buy a new car, it probably will be the last car that I ever buy, since I'm 72 years old, and it's likely that either my license will be revoked at some stage or I'll be dead before that car will see me out. But if you're a much younger person and you're buying a new car, then you want to be sure that the car and the dealer and the network and the parts and all that sort of stuff are going to be around for the foreseeable future. Now, I don't have any inside information on the health or otherwise of any of the companies that I've mentioned in the Chinese manufacturers. I don't know anything about their market capitalisation, about their debt price to earnings ratio or debt levels or any of that sort of stuff. I'm just basing my thoughts here on examples that I've given you. Examples like, well, Opel were here and they went away. People bought Opel cars and then they left the market. Then they came back and more people bought Opel cars and they left the market again. People bought Daewoo cars and then Daewoo left the market. People bought Daihatsus and Daihatsus left the market. People bought Infiniti cars and Infiniti left the market. So this does happen. Manufacturers leave the market because for a variety of reasons. They realise that they're not selling as many cars as they thought they would, that it's not economical for them to maintain a dealer network. Whatever number of reasons, whatever the reasons are, they're valid reasons as far as the accountants and marketing people and all those sort of people that are involved in the sale of a car say it doesn't make any sense for us to continue to sell cars or that particular car in that market anymore. Not enough of them are being sold, and it's just not worth our while. So I don't know anything about the state of health, the economic health or otherwise of any of the car companies that I've mentioned here that are based in China, but it's a legitimate question to say which ones will be here in 5 or 10 years' time. Now, I suppose the answer to that might be, well, you pick a really big brand. Well, BYD apparently is a really big brand. They are in the top 10, I believe, in fact, the top 5 or 6 of sellers of new cars in Australia at the moment. MG are also in the top 10. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be here in a decade or so. I don't have any information to say they won't be. I'm not suggesting they won't be. I'm simply saying it's good to ask that question. Xiaomi, for example, as I said, is a mobile phone manufacturer that decided about 18 months ago or 2 years ago they would start making cars, and apparently they've succeeded in making cars, and they are promising to bring vehicles to the Australian market. Now, I have no information about them, the health of that company or otherwise. It just seems to me to be a legitimate question to ask. Manufacturers that have been here for a long time, like Toyota and Mazda and so forth, and even Kia and Hyundai, they've built up a reputation over a long time. I'm not endorsing them. I'm just saying they've built up a reputation over a long time. They have a good dealer network. They offer good warranties in most cases, and in most instances, they honour their warranties. The Chinese manufacturers are new to the Australian market, although some of them have been here 5, 6, 7 years now, but they're still finding their way and still building their network and still building their reputation. So my suggestion to you is do your research. I'm not sure how you fully do that, but be careful and be sure that the choice that you make is the one you want and the vehicle that you want, because if the manufacturer closes their network or stops selling the particular car that you bought, you may well be left with a car that you can't get parts for, you can't get service for, and that's a legitimate concern, whether it's a Chinese-made car or a European-made car or made somewhere else. Well, those are my thoughts on Chinese-made cars, or the Chinese cars made by Chinese manufacturers. If you have a comment, please leave it in the appropriate place. Comment on the content. If I'm factually incorrect about anything, please correct that. And when I become aware of your comments, I will respond to them. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your day, and I'll catch you in the next video.